you were right. 2020 is bizarre. Like, this has just been a weird, like,
it's going to be one of those things. Like, well, for one, we were talking about this the other day as a family. When the kids think back, like, do you remember like when your grandparents or somebody would go like, well, back in the 20s when your grandma was,
yeah.
Well, that's what the kids are going to be doing, or their kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, back in the 20s, remember we had that pandemic?
Yeah.
And like everybody was losing their mind, but hardly anybody was like experiencing anything.
It's going to be like, I mean, I thought 2020, growing up in the, late 80s, early 90s, it was Jetsons and flying cars, and we were supposed to be there, not like face masking up and not talking.
I have an
to
Apple
people.
Watch, bro.
I know, that's true. But I'm like, man, what a year that I had such huge hopes, and instead I spent most of it inside and wearing masks.
Welcome to the Everyday Disciple podcast, where you'll learn how to live with greater intentionality and an integrated faith that naturally fits into every area of life. In other words, discipleship as a lifestyle. This is the stuff your parents, pastors, and seminary professors probably forgot to tell you. And now, here's your host, Caesar Kalinowski.
All right, here we are. It is the end of 2020. I can remember when the whole Y2K thing, is that what it was even called? Y2K thing was happening and the whole world was going to crash and no one's flashlight or clock or watch even stopped. Okay, so anyway, here we are 20 years past it. I can't even believe it. This has definitely been the craziest year ever. I have to say, and I'm going to talk about this with my friend, my special guest here. I'll tell you who he is in a second. I kind of tipped my hand last week if you guys were listening, but it has been a crazy year, but it's been a pretty great year in some other ways. I mean, it really has. And I think calamity clarifies, right? When things get weird and tough. And so anyway, so I just want to say, this kind of a free flow today. We're doing like, this is kind of traditional now as the podcast is getting into its multi-year series where we always sort of end the year kind of recapping and how's the year been and where's it going. But I always was able to do that with my pal and co-host Heath Hollensbe, and you still hear him every week. He's the guy who sets me up and announces and closes up the show and all that. But guess what? He's here with me.
I am here.
He's here.
Man, this feels
You
good.
hear those golden pipes already? My voice sounds really tiny and whiny. Yeah, it's because it is.
No, this is so good. Feels like we're back in the saddle. We are.
Except what a switcheroo. I'm running the gear.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's really weird seeing you now doing everything that I
Because
used
he was
to
the
do.
producer. Like he co-hosted, but he was the producer. I just kind of sat down and talked. Now I got to do all this stuff, and I'm like clicking and clacking. But I hope it's running. Let me just double check. Yeah, hey, we're still recording.
We're still happy.
All right.
No, this is so good to be with you, man. And you were right. 2020 is bizarre. Like, this has just been a weird, like,
it's going to be one of those things. Like, well, for one, we were talking about this the other day as a family. When the kids think back, like, do you remember like when your grandparents or somebody would go like, well, back in the 20s when your grandma was,
yeah.
Well, that's what the kids are going to be doing, or their kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, back in the 20s, remember we had that pandemic?
Yeah.
And like everybody was losing their mind, but hardly anybody was like experiencing anything.
It's going to be like, I mean, I thought 2020, growing up in the, late 80s, early 90s, it was Jetsons and flying cars, and we were supposed to be there, not like face masking up and not talking.
I have an
to
Apple
people.
Watch, bro.
I know, that's true. But I'm like, man, what a year that I had such huge hopes, and instead I spent most of it inside and wearing masks. And it's
by the way, as also is our tradition, Heath and I are enjoying a holiday beverage.
Yeah.
And we invite you to do the same while you listen to this
it.
episode. We're not going to tell you what we're having, but if you'd like to go into the Facebook group, a lot of you have joined that. You can go to everydaydisciple.com/Facebook and boom, just join us there. I would love it. You long-term listeners will come on, like do this with us. Guess at what you think our holiday beverage will be. It could be anything, okay?
Yeah.
It could be a glass of water. It could be guava juice. Is that a thing? I don't know.
I could be fasting and not drinking anything. I don't
Could
know.
be anything. So you guys guess, and if anybody guesses this right, I promise you, I will have a special prize for you. You know that Everyday Disciple swag like that we put up, we posted in the site? Guys, some of you saw that. I haven't even talked about it on the show. I should have, right? I suppose that's how good of a marketer I am. But I will send you a piece of swag if you guess properly what each of us are having for our holiday beverage.
Is there two different things, or are we on the same thing?
All right, listen, you just made it way easier. We're having the same thing.
Okay,
So people,
so we just
that would have really thrown a curveball. You're a nice guy. You're still a nice guy, Heath.
Yeah,
Okay, so let me ask you,
Yeah, man.
everyone healthy? I mean, have you guys had the Rona? Or
No, we've actually been really healthy. So I mean, like to remind you, got a wife and 4 kids and a dog, and
a dog. Got to throw that in. What's the dog's name?
Scarlett. She's a golden doodle. She's 4 years
That's
old.
awesome. We don't know the wives or kids' names, but we know Scarlett.
They don't
so-
matter. The dog is a star. No, everyone's healthy. There's been no sickness, which is wild because I've got 4 kids under 12, and so they're out playing and getting dirty and meeting other kids, and nothing's been brought back to the house.
You
It's
know,
been great.
Same with us, man. And we still do community with those who are, open to it, and we follow the rules and all. But there's still a lot of people who are, doing life with us, right? It's Team
Completely.
K. And Tina has a part-time job at a bakery now, so she's around people 5 days a week in the mornings. And our daughter has a salon, and our son-in-law Daniel, who we see all the time, that he's a firefighter. Yeah. So he's with sick people.
And you've got a couple real youngins in the
we
tribe.
We got babies.
Some babies.
And so, I mean, that was a big part of this year. We picked up 2 more.
That's amazing.
In 2020, we picked up our first granddaughter, Remy, who took 3 steps today. Woo! She's 11 months.
Oh my gosh.
She's 3 months behind her brother, Patton. Like he was walking at like 8.5 months. Like crazy. Yeah.
He's like his dad. He's like subhuman, or like what's that? Like ultra human.
He's gonna be quite the athletic. He's a little But and then my son Caesar, who has Caesar 5, had a second son. And I've mentioned that on the show. So I have 3 grandsons and a baby girl. So that's been like
no sickness.
The best. No sickness.
That's great.
I mean, not even a little. And I mentioned on the podcast a month and a half ago. I actually had to do. I don't know if you know this. I was in the hospital for a little issue, little gastral, stuff. Yeah. And I think I mentioned what it was. It was diverticulitis. So maybe some of you know, and I'm doing good now. But I didn't want to miss an episode because you and I never missed episodes. And since, you've just done the announcing part only,
I still have a high standard.
I haven't missed yet. So I did kind of an encore episode on treating people like family, but I set it all up again and ended it.
Yeah.
And so I recorded that, dude, on my iPhone.
In a hospital bed.
In the hospital under a sheet, so I can kind of like make it a little less echoey.
Yeah,
dude, I was
that is perseverance.
I was faithful, and then it took me just as long to edit that because I had to EQ the heck out of it.
Oh, sure,
to get it.
How funny, man!
So, but no sickness that's been pandemic related. Praise God.
Yeah,
and we know some people that have, but not here locally.
Yeah,
believe it or not. So.
I know one person right now that's had it, and they're not local.
But I know there's a lot.
Yeah,
and so
for sure.
Our hearts go out to anybody who's suffered from this, or I know people who have lost, loved ones to that. But Anyway, so grateful for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm grateful for your family all being healthy. Yeah. You had a bit of a work job change since I've last seen you, but I mean, since the folks have last heard from you. You were, I mean, just as a reminder, when we first started the podcast, and it was called the Life School Podcast, Heath was leading worship at a church, fairly large concern there, and then he moved into some other work and doing
project management stuff, like
media
that,
and all that. And now you've shifted another job, and you were just briefly as you came in, tell me you're really loving it.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, it's one of those things where it was wild because I got 4 kids. We're in the Northwest, single family income. And in end of July, I got a call from my boss saying, hey, we're letting 3 of the 6 of you go. And so there's another round coming after that.
I remember that.
I was like, oh. So here I am, jobless for months. And I remember I was talking to a mutual friend, Jay Diller, as we were getting our marriage counseling. And he looked at me and he said, Heath, when was last, or he said to my wife, he said, Kathleen, when was the last time you saw Heath happy in a job? And she's like, oh, that was back when he was touring before we moved to Washington. And he said, oh, before you had kids? And she said, yes. And he said, so let me just ask.
Blame it on the kids.
Blame it on the kids every time. But he said, don't you think it affects your family life when you're not happy with your job? And so we did a huge personality profile, job testing stuff. That was really helpful and beneficial, except a friend of mine called out of the blue and said, we think you'd be great for this position. It's a full service creative marketing agency in Tacoma. I oversee the whole marketing department, and it's just fun. The culture's great. It's a gospel centered,
I'm so happy for you, bro.
Yeah, I love it.
Because I'll be honest with you, I've not known you. I mean, we've been friends a while.
Yeah, but I've always had kind of
I've never known you to go like, man, I love what I'm doing, my job.
And I do now. I have so much
I'm so
fun.
grateful, man. That's
And
so
God
good.
is good, and it pays more than I've ever made. And the beautiful thing is that the focus is on culture. And so like we have philosophies like no team member is dispensable. So if you're not good at your job, we're not going to like
move you
fire
around.
you.
Let's figure it
we'll
out.
find a place for you because you're family. You
beautiful.
matter. And so
That sounds like family.
totally. And so there's some
Right?
really deeply woven gospel culture that has built that place. And I just love that. It's so fun waking up every day, serving the team, serving the clients, and then also knowing we're really investing in people.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I can't be the only guy who loves what I do every day.
Yeah, you get a cush. I mean, you're a hard worker. I've always said you're one of the hardest workers I've ever met. But it's pretty cool that you don't have maybe, I don't know, like maybe Tina's like 2 more blog posts before 4 o'clock.
No.
But you got a good life, dude. I mean,
No,
sitting on your porch
I'm the luckiest boy in the world. I have said that for 25 years.
Yeah.
I am first off, I married Tina.
Yeah.
And then Team K, these kids and, the community. But
the legacy continues, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Well,
awesome.
I couldn't be happier for you, man.
Yeah,
hey,
thank you.
if you were to say, like we've done that, maybe we've talked about this on the episode before, maybe you and I even in the past, or maybe I just did, but some of the things we do in our family and we like doing it in community is we're sit around a room and we do what we call high-low buffalo.
Yeah.
So we used to call it high-lows. So you're like, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part, right? High-low.
Yeah.
But then someone we were coaching said, oh, we do that, but we do high-low buffalo. And I'm like, what's buffalo? And they're like, the craziest thing you ever saw, because how often do you see a buffalo, unless you go to a zoo or something,
true.
right?
Unless
and
you live
so
in, like,
I
Kansas.
thought it'd be kind of fun if you and I did high-low buffaloes.
Okay. I like this.
So you first.
Do
But
we want to do high, low, buffalo?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So I guess it could be for 2020.
Yeah,
If you
okay.
want to go the year, or it could just be this week. I don't, you can just tell us.
Yeah.
It's your call. This isn't like a quiz. It's just meant to be fun. But what's your high, either for the year, or you could say like recently,
Yeah, there's a couple highs. One of them was, the job thing's just been great. Like, and even my wife's like, man, you're happy, you're fun, the joy is back. So that's been high. The thing I'm super proud about, I mean, I think I told you in the text, like I just submitted my doctoral dissertation, so I'll be Dr. Heath here in
Oh my gosh.
4 months, like Doctor of Ministry.
This will be the last time you ever hear Heath on the podcast, because he will be like, are you kidding? I'm a doctor. I can't stoop to.
Call my assistant's assistant. Get me on the
Gee,
calendar.
Your handwriting's going to shot. It's just going to, yeah.
So those are 2 highs of my year. I was like, and those are 2 highs. And the other thing that I would say is a high is I've been married 15 years, and we've just hit a spot
That's great.
where we go, you know how you hear the old people, and they're like, I just fall more in love with my spouse every day. And I'm like, bull. I don't believe it. I'm actually at a place where I'm like loving my wife. Every day I see her more beautiful. There's more I love about her. So our marriage is in a good spot. It's just that's been awesome. man.
I'm happier for that than your job is cool.
Yeah, me too, man. That's my number one.
And that, you know what, that's going to speak volumes into your kids.
Yeah.
That you're seeing you happy in work, but also they're seeing you and Ma love each other at new levels. That's how it goes too. There's, everybody hear this. There are seasons of marriage. When you go through 15 years of marriage and you weren't raised by perfect parents.
Nope.
Nobody was, right?
Yep.
And you're trying to figure out how to live a kingdom life.
Yeah.
You're going to have up and downs where you're like, not like I don't love this person, whatever, but as far as just the affection or
Sure.
like the fun part of it, right?
Yeah.
And then you push through, and like you already mentioned, like getting some counseling and all, like
Totally.
which was, by the way, our counselor, right?
Yeah, he's
that's how you met him.
Yep.
And it's amazing. And so, man, praise God for that, brother. That's so great.
Yeah, it's
well,
been over.
how do I
okay,
top
tell me
that
about
high?
you, dude? Okay, what are do you have one high, or are there many?
If I look at the whole year, okay. Well, you gave me like 3, okay?
Okay.
Let me say 1. I already mentioned it. Having the grandkids, man. I'd like to have 100. I don't think it's going to happen. If I get to 6 or 8, I'll be.
Yeah.
But I have 4 right now, and they love Grandpa. Oh my gosh, they really do.
You know what my mom tells me? Oh, Ma Hollensbe, right? She always says, and
Is she still a listener?
Yeah, she still listens.
Hey, Ma, how's it going?
She always says, "Man, being a grandma is so much more fun than being a mom." And I was like, "Oh, you are awful for saying that." But
I don't know if
different,
I don't know say if grandparent. I mean, I have a little plaque upstairs that said if I'd have known that being a grandparent was this much fun, I'd have done it first.
Yeah.
It's like a little tchotchke thing,
Yeah,
you
sure.
buy at a gift store, but I had to have it. It's
Yeah.
like, that's part of also becoming a grandpa. Like your dad jokes and everything, you get corny. You know what I mean?
sure.
So, but we loved being parents.
Yeah.
And my kids,
They're
them
great.
all like
Yeah, yeah.
friends. And so they're our friends, right?
Sure.
So I tell them, they know like we're nuts about the grandkids. And I
Yeah.
say, just so you know, right? We were just that nuts. As nuts as you are for your kids.
Yeah,
We were
like
that way about you. And I still am. Like when you
Yeah,
call, I'm like,
that's cool.
hey, Kristen's
Yeah.
calling, Caesar's calling, like Justine's on the phone,
Yeah.
So,
That's
so,
cool.
So the new grandkids, I really, that's corny. I guess I have to say it right. But I would say also, financially, it should have been the worst year ever. But, like some PPE stuff came through and a little like emergency loan stuff came through that actually allowed Tina and I to kind of like right the ship and move some debt around and kind of
awesome.
get rid of debt. And like, okay, and in business, you always kind of carry, like for us, we've owned like 17 plus businesses.
Yeah.
We've always had like a line of credit because you have years of plenty and, season, right? But we haven't for years.
Okay.
And so all of a sudden you're like, whoa, we're kind of like at the bottom of the barrel here. Like, and now it's COVID and like, right. And so that kind of allowed us to right the ship. And sure, we owe that back, right? But it's like at $2 a month for like ever. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so,
It's
oh my
easier to
God.
write, yeah.
And it was really God's grace. And so we've actually had a real good year of being able to kind of right the ship in some ways again, with ministry and business and, but also just personally and all. So that's been just a lot of pressure off, to say the things you fight about most in marriage, first money, second sex,
Yeah, totally. Communication
and so,
stuff,
sex is not the problem. Anyway, so money we weren't fighting about it, but it's just, so that's a blessing, like in the worst possible year. And I know so many people are suffering financially.
Sure.
In the bubble of grace, man, here that we, we talk about, we live in, like we feel like God's blessed. And then,
It's cool.
third, it'll be weird to say this, but when I had that diverticulitis and I was like really, really sick, in finding out what I had was actually an answer to why have I felt not very good physically, emotionally for about 9 months.
Okay.
And right before, probably the week before I went to the hospital, I told Tina, I said, I think maybe I'm suffering from some depression and anxiety. Maybe I need to get a pill or something. I don't like pills. I don't believe in that.
Sure.
I don't, like the gospel, right? Is like always fix me,
Yeah.
But I just feel like I'm in this funk and I don't feel good physically either. But I think it's due to that. Well, then when they said, oh, well, you've been actually sick and leaking and like poisoned inside and all this. And I went, and this feeling I had, I thought was like a bladder issue. It's actually been, it's been this for sure. So I was basically had an infection.
Yeah.
And so I feel so much better.
Oh, I'm so grateful.
And so it's one of those things where I go, not only am I grateful for healthcare in America and getting healed, but I feel good and I feel clear again. And I'm dreaming dreams of future stuff. And
that's so,
you know what I mean?
so
So
cool.
like, instead of going like, whoa, I got so sick. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's
Had
like,
to be in the hospital. Yeah.
oh yeah, how come God didn't I feel grateful to God.
That's
so
amazing, man.
that would be another high. So
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, dude.
yeah, man. So I'm feeling great. I'm feeling super good. And they thought for sure I had corona. I went and got tested. And when I found out I didn't, then I thought, okay, then I'm really sick. I got to go to the hospital. And I went to like an urgent care with Tina. And they looked at me and tested a few things. They said, you need to go to the ER.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went to, I went to the ER, at night,
Yeah.
And so, and so then they tested me for corona again. I said, I just got my results
literally.
3 hours ago. Listen, if it walks like a duck, it quacks. And I'm like, no. I don't think so.
away.
So they shoved the Q-tip up into my brain. Like, oh my gosh.
I've seen the pictures of that. Like, no, thank you.
Okay, no, the first test I had, Heath, it's a little uncomfortable. It's kind of like when you have a little wasabi, too much, and you kind of go, ow,
Yeah.
It was like that. It was just a little uncomfortable. This second one in the ER, I swear, it was like, I said, ow. I was like, how's hollering? And I have a pretty high pain top. And I said, I taste blood running down the back of my throat. Like, I can't imagine that's what's required.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get in there, sir. I'm like, listen. Anyway, so
like I did this
I wasn't
2 minutes
grateful
ago.
for that. That would be a low. Let me put that on the low list. So how about low? So you go high, low. How about what's a low? I know it seems weird to talk about them, but
I mean, a couple of those. Low was obviously losing a job and trying to balance the diligent in your search for a new job, but also resting in the gratefulness of God. And I'll say, like, that's not a high I mention, but like, I was unemployed all summer, and I spent every single day at the beach with my kids. I'd work for jobs from my phone.
I mean, you were working still, though. You were really hustling and beating the bushes. I remember that. Yep.
But it was also like, man, I had a great summer.
I know, you were like kids' Instagramming up the world, bro. Like, where's this guy at now? Where are you getting the money for this?
I would say one of the biggest lows, man, is really coming to that understanding of just craving a spiritual community. And it's hard because we wave this missional flag, and it's something I really believe in with all my heart. But even here, it's been a challenge to go like, no, we are the church scattered, and that's what we believe to be true about this missional impulse. And yet, why can't we find time to Zoom with one another? And so that low of just, man, I'm just craving spiritual conversation, spiritual connections with brothers and sisters.
It's been a weird year for that, hasn't it?
That's my low, man. I'm going to be honest.
It really is. I can totally relate to that. Boy, I kind of live as an optimist, as you know that. People are like, well, tell me the bad parts, we're stuffed in. I feel like life only sucks when you don't learn.
Yeah.
Or grow from something.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
'cause I don't, what's perfect me? Like, I don't think humans were created to manage the knowledge of good and evil. So when I always go like, that was bad, I'm like, God's like, yeah, but I meant it for good. And it turned out pretty good, right? Like the diverticulitis,
Yeah.
So, I want to give you an answer though. So what do I say low? This will be a gospel issue low.
Okay.
The biggest lows for me, but it's a gospel issue, is when I let myself down in how I treat people. And generally what comes to mind is like Tina or something,
Sure.
And we have the most, really, we do have the marriage where it's like, I love her more.
Yeah, that's amazing.
37 years of marriage, bro.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's crazy.
We're going to be,
and I'm only like 45. So we got married at like 8, and so started having babies at 10. Yeah, but it's. But then I go, why am I letting myself down? I was talking about this. We just did the 4Gs series through Advent, and it's the whole thing of when I don't. When I don't believe God is great, then I'm going to prove myself to myself. And so I let myself down, and that's just an insult to God. Yeah. Those are my lows, bro. But both that I did it, but then I also I take offense at it instead of sure. I know that grieves God way worse.
Totally.
Those are my lows, man. I don't, or when I don't lead well, like when I don't protect Tina or I don't live in an understanding way. Those are the things that come to mind most.
Yeah.
And I know that maybe that sounds due to be, but God's working on my heart. That grieves me more than you, bro. And I'm like, I know, Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that kind of stuff, just aggregate, would be my low. I don't know. I'm not trying to sound all altruistic. That's just at this point in my life and age and marriage and miles, on the road. That's really where you're at. That's really
it's really
the
good.
low, because God has shown me so many times that sickness or this or that, financial loss or whatever. But I'm in it, and Tina and I are old enough and have run enough businesses and ministry stuff to look back and go, remember when we were eating hot dogs, literally, and beans, and couldn't go anywhere. And if we got a night in a hotel room locally and jumped on the bed so the kids could swim in a pool, we couldn't even afford that. But that was that year's vacation.
Yeah.
Those are the best years, right? Because God showed us his heart and taught us things. And so, that would be my low, I guess. But how about Buffalo, dude? What's the craziest thing you've seen this year?
Okay, this is really weird. And this is one of those things when I get to heaven, or I don't know what when I'm with God. The first question that I would ask. So I was sick earlier this year, and I'm laying in my bed puking my brains out, and my wife, my sweet wife, goes to the grocery store and gets Sprite and saltines, and
that was always my mom's cure-all for anything that you felt bad about.
Totally,
maybe ginger ale. Maybe ginger ale. That would be the alternative. It was a little spicy for us when we were kids.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, I jumped on that.
No, you're right, dude. So we're sitting there, and I'm in my bed, and we don't live. I mean, we're close to the Puget Sound, but we're not near any water. And I've got 4 kids, and they're pranksters, but not to what I'm about to tell you. So I'm sitting there, and I open up this 7-Up, and I fill up my Mason glass, and I'm laying in my bed, and I set it to the side of my bed, and there's 3 ice cubes, and I've just poured this brand new bottle of 7-Up. And I set it down.
And there's a cockroach floating in it.
No, there's something floating in it. You want to know what it was?
How did I guess that?
It's not a cockroach. A shrimp.
Was in the can.
I don't know where it's from.
Or did your kid run in?
No, because we don't have shrimp near us. We don't keep shrimp in the house. And this was a full-on tentacles, eyes. It hasn't been gutted.
In your 7-Up?
Yeah, it wasn't gutted for
Was it cooked?
Nope.
It was gray. It was raw.
Yeah, it was a full-on that crawdad or that shrimp somehow just got in the factory. It had to crawl because I was maybe it crawled into the ocean, which is 2 miles away.
There's a lot of shrimp in the 7-Up factory.
Yeah,
Did you write them?
No.
Oh man, you'd have been on TV. You'd have been so on TV. They wouldn't have believed you.
There's a single shrimp. They'd be like, "Yeah, who put the shrimp in your glass?" I'm like, "No, seriously, it was just me in that room." And 30 seconds later, because I felt it when I took the sip, the shrimp hit my top lip.
Oh,
that's how I knew it.
My gosh. You know what that reminds me of is back BC, okay, before Christ, when you'd be at a party and this happened to me. I shouldn't even reveal these kind of things, but just let your redemption show, right?
Yeah.
Is when you'd be at a party and then you'd like take your too much party.
Sure.
And you'd take you'd pick up a beer thinking it's yours and you take a drink of it and like a cigarette butt would hit you.
Oh,
because it was an empty can and someone had put it out. It's nobody's. Like it's just
oh, so gross.
I shouldn't even say those kind of things. No one's going to want to listen anymore. That was a long time ago. Okay, friends.
That's my weirdest. Like I'll go to the grave with that. Like what happened?
You know what's crazy? You mentioned that because you know what my buffalo for the year is, we live here with the forest, right?
Yeah,
and it's like kind of a green belt in the back of us,
beautiful,
right?
The birds and
and we get all kinds of animals and stuff.
Yeah.
I actually saw a freaking buffalo.
No way.
You're right. No way.
Oh, I was like, I don't even know if they're
there's
regional.
no way. You pull out this shrimp story. I got nothing. I can't even think now. I'm so blown. You're making that up.
Dude, that was like one of those like, am I in the Matrix? Like, what is going on to me right now?
All right. Well, dude, you win. All right. You win the buffalo. You win the high-low buffalo contest. All right.
If you're like a doctor and know how shrimp migrate, or like maybe you have an answer, but I don't know. I'm stumped.
All right. I'm going to go. That was funny. I'm going to go a little heavier now.
Okay.
But we're going to, you don't have to get it, So what are some things you feel like you've learned about or from God this year? I know it's a little heavy, but here we are. We're buds and we're real with people. So
yeah.
Some things you feel like you've learned about or from God this year, or just anything.
Yeah. The two things that I would say, the one that's like would be my second answer would be just that he's so everywhere. Like I've always said that, like, of course we know God's everywhere. And then you start talking to people and then you hear stories and you hear of redemption deep in these stories. And you're like, man, the Spirit is alive and moving across the world and changing things. Like, and so the awareness of him intricately involved in these little details it really huge.
Yeah, he's not the clock master who wound it up thousands of years, millions of years ago, and then pieced out, right? He's
into
here,
this.
man.
Yeah. And I think the number one thing this year that I walked away with my thoughts of God, and this was a big reframe because we talk do to be, we talk about like kind of identity stuff, but for me, the big takeaway, if I had to say it in a sentence, would be he's so much more concerned about relationship than about getting it right.
Amen.
And
bro.
so
that's so.
How much of my life is like, well, I have to believe this correctly, otherwise I'm screwed. I have to believe this forever, or I'm going to end up here. I have to do this, or I can't get. And to go like, he's not a referee. He wants relationship. I think we just put so much on getting it right or doing something right, or this is the correct way, or this is the incorrect, or this is allowed, this is not. And just to come to the awareness of like, no, he just wants relationship. He wants to know you. That's kind of my takeaway. No,
and that is the truth of it. And how many people are longing for that to be true, right?
Totally.
It's beautiful that's a new, like I know you mentally have known that for a long time, right? So,
what about you, man?
I would say that in the last few weeks, kind of the theme of the year that God's been showing me again, like as I kind of had to prepare for these 4 Gs through the lens of hope and peace and love and joy, like the Advent series, it really sanded my heart again, and it has it's kind of been going all year because it's it's what a crazy year, like every other than January, every speaking and teaching and training opportunity that because I live on the road,
it all like dries up,
all gone and all that, and you wonder like, oh, okay, but I've been praying, Lord, like I'd like to be home more, It's like here you are, right? But this like you mentioned, identity, this belief now that when we believe what's true about God and that we were created in his image to be like him.
Yeah.
Like if we'll believe that, no one, I was like, yeah, but what do you mean like him? Like a little bit like him or do the things he does? No, like in his
image.
Him. Yeah. It changes everything.
Yeah, it does.
And it changes what you believe about yourself. And so therefore how you treat others.
Yeah.
I mean, and that has been reinforced. And I hope it's reinforced over and over and over. You know what I mean? Like I hope I say the same thing next year. You know what I mean? But
it's one of those messages you just like no matter how many times you say it, like it's like that fresh manna every day. Like you just have to come to that every day of that.
The more I understand the beauty, the power, the glory, the goodness, the grace of God, the more I'm humbled, but the more I also understand who I was created to be.
Yep.
And so I want to be that.
Yeah.
And then I go, but I can't. He goes, but I gave you my spirit so you can be.
Yep. Totally.
Right? So to go all spiritual,
Oh, I love it, man.
It's so true. And yeah. Okay, so here's my last question for you.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like part 2 of that first question. What are some things you feel like you learned about yourself this year?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is really slowing down and enjoying the journey. Don't just aim for destination with life. And so
The journey is the goal, right?
That's what we're like. That's
You're
what
like,
we got.
if I get to this, if I only, that's not believing God is good. So we're always looking
you're
for.
just chasing the next thing, and that target keeps moving. It's
The journey is the goal, you know?
And so I think for me, like I was thinking about this the other day. Like the one word that I would just say I'm super grateful for 2020 is this sense of wonder of like, let yourself walk outside and be blown away at how beautiful a garden is. Like let yourself laugh at the funny things in life. Let yourself like have time to enjoy the presence with your kids and the day.
I guess when you lose your job and you've got all this time.
Totally.
That's a gift though, right?
Absolutely.
Because like, did life end? Did you guys live under a bridge for a
No.
couple months and never eat or like?
we didn't, this is crazy, bro. So I was unemployed for 4 months and
Though you had some
Single
unemployment
income.
coming in, right? Like benefit
Yeah.
or something, but
for a little bit, but not
yeah,
a ton.
right?
We didn't once touch savings. And I was guaranteed like within
Wow.
on paper, that first month we would have had to dip into savings. And I went 4 months with no job, not even a lead. I think the grand total was 300 and
How many of you?
I'm well educated. I've got a good career history, built record label, like not 300 plus interview or 300 plus resumes out, not a single phone call. And I was
That's
like,
hard working.
dude, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but I'm with my kids. They're fun. They're teaching me how to live.
How many of you would like a 4-month vacation with your kids and hanging out and not freaking out about it? Because I was talking to you all the time then. You weren't freaking out.
I was like, hey, we're
I
going
mean,
to
you
go to
were
the beach.
working.
Let's go to
like
Sonic
you were
and
being
get drinks
diligent.
for today. Yeah.
How many of you would like a 4-month vacation without freaking out, not touching your savings, and then get a job you love better than anything you've had in a long, long time?
Yeah. It's a good reminder that no matter what you tend to believe about yourself, you are not your ultimate provider.
It's so weird that you say the whole slow down and notice.
Yeah.
I've actually been thinking about that exact thing this week. That maybe this year caused it too. You know?
Totally.
Because I go like, I might just next year do a little fast of like videos and movies and TV because I'm a TV addict. I love it. I just
me
do
too, man,
because I love story, and so.
Totally.
But I also love to read, and I thought, but it's weird because I can watch a movie in 2 hours,
Yeah.
and you get a whole arc. And let's say it's a fabulous movie,
Sure.
Or I can read a book that's fabulous, but it takes me like 8 hours.
Yep.
Or 12 hours, right? It's days,
Totally.
right? And I still read. I read a lot of books. I've read a lot of books 2020. Okay.
It's a good time.
Yeah. But I thought about why is it that I'm kind of my heart's a little bit drawn to that? It's because it slows me down. And when I slow down, I tend to slow down in, oh, wait a minute, decision making. Why am I making this decision? Father, Dad, what's, right?
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, I'm a little slower, so I listen a little better.
Yep.
And I
Totally.
feel like then if I'm listening a little better, I can understand and I can love a little bit,
Yeah.
And so I totally am with you on this idea of like, and maybe it's been in the media too, but I think this idea of like this year has slowed us down a bit and also caused people to focus on family. And I know that's also driven the divorce rate up a few clicks and other, and other things. And that's sad. But it's also for a lot of people said, it was tough at first. We got past it and we realized the value of slowing down and our family and the importance of the journey, like you said. So, man,
that's why people are like,
I'm
I
not
can't
just
wait for
copying
things
you.
to
I
get
feel
back.
the same thing. I've been thinking about it like the last few days deeply. Like, I might want to try some little like heart thought experiments in
Completely.
2021.
Totally.
Not because like anything's evil or bad, but like, what if I really slowed down?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and
when
I've been like, remember I said it's been a really great year. We have coached more people and done more training in 2020 than any other year.
Ah, praise God.
And
That's amazing.
I love, they're like Team K. I wish I could just
I know you
read
treat
their
those
names.
people like family, like they're on you.
I love them. And I feel like, and then yet though, there's because of COVID and no travel. And see, normally like I'm working real hard when I'm home and then I'm gone.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then I have to work extra hard when I'm home.
Completely.
With that being gone, I'm kind of caught up on my normal stuff. So I feel super lazy.
Sure. Yeah.
So then I go slower. So then I take my time a little bit more in writing like the podcast or something. Or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
whatever it might be,
And
yeah.
so I'm going like, man, Father, I would love to maintain this slowness, at least in my heart, right? You know,
Well, that's like when people are like, let's just can't wait till things get back to normal. Part of me is like, let's be careful what we wish
which
for.
part of normal?
Because there's some new norms from 2020 that I'm like,
Yeah.
please don't ever let this go away.
All right. Wow. Well, listen, I'm gonna just put a pin right there, man. It's been,
I don't even get to see the clock anymore. I don't even know where we're at.
You don't
like
know
the
where
thing
we're
I
at.
used to do.
Yeah,
You're doing it all.
we're about at that point. We're slightly long, but what's new, right? You know,
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
when we're
I
talking.
haven't talked to you in
By the way,
forever.
I will say this: now that you've not been on the shows in the way you were before,
Yeah.
and it's just me talking, I tend to hit my numbers a little better because it's just my ideas, not mine and yours, right? You know what I mean? That's
Blame
just-
it on me, dude.
No.
It's always
it's
the
not even that.
pastor
It's
that goes
not even-
long.
It's not even that. Anyway, so I want to also give we've done this years gone by. I want to give you a little heads up at like where the podcast is going in 2021. No major changes. That was something that was big in 2020 because we changed the name. We kind of, to use a marketing term, rebranded. We became Everyday Disciple Podcast, where we just started realizing that's what we're about is everyday discipleship, which means gospel in all of life, every day, lifestyle stuff. And that went so smooth. You guys were all so great about that. And that's something I'm really pleased about. That was a high
so
for
cool.
sure.
The listeners of the show are the best, man. I mean,
But otherwise, the show hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except for I'm not being interviewed by you, but I'm still having guests and interviewing them, which is also weird because you used to do that. But in the next year, I've been thinking about, I want to introduce, and I will be introducing some new segments.
cool.
You know, like when you watch a talk show or Fallon or whatever, they got little different segments.
Cooking
and then they
with
got
Caesar.
Huh?
Cooking with Caesar.
There might be some cooking with Caesar and Tina. Here's a recipe hour or something. I know.
Oh, yeah.
No, there's going to be some regularly featured segments, and then there'll be
Awesome.
some now and then featured, like, hey, and then we'll get to the meat of the topic.
Sure.
So there's
That's
going to be,
cool.
or at the end, like, hey, before we get to the big three, let me just throw this in
Yeah.
because I saw this. Like there might be some things connected to like something on the news that we're all dealing with, and I know that might date it for people listening back, but most things that are big, if we can look at how the gospel speaks into a current event, it's going to come again, or it's still going on.
Though I'm not here with you every week, I still listen. And your episode, I mean, it's now 2 months old. Cancel culture to me was like, oh my gosh, you want to talk about it? It's something that I've been for months trying to figure out what my opinion is on it and what's a gospel sense of cancel culture. And you just came in 20 minutes and nailed it. And I was like, dang it. So I still am a huge listener.
Thank
I still
you, bro.
love what you're doing, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I miss you like crazy
Yeah,
on the show.
likewise.
But we forge on. We forge ahead, right? So there'll be some new segments like that.
Yeah.
There's just some things I might try
Yeah.
and get some feedback from y'all out there. And if it's good and it's helpful, I'll do them again. And if it's not, we always say we're not pouring cement. I have no fear here,
Yeah.
And we're still not charging.
Yeah, that's right. It's still free.
But you know what? You can sort of pay it forward by sharing the show. Right? Like tell some folks about it,
Yeah.
or go to everydaydisciple.com and you click on the podcast. All the episodes have those little share buttons where you just go, Facebook, love this episode. You guys have to hear this, right? Some of you are super faithful. Like I see you share episodes almost
Constantly,
every
yeah.
week, right?
Yeah.
So please subscribe. Please join us in the Facebook group. But you know what? Share the show. If everybody right now who listens regularly just shared that out to their Facebook group, we could double the party.
Yeah.
Because not everybody would listen, but you probably have more than one person on your
Totally.
Facebook page. So would you please, just as a way of blessing us back and the legacy that Heath helped build here with the show and all that. So anyway, it's been awesome having you on.
Yeah, man. I love
Golly,
you.
I
miss
miss you so much on the show, bro.
I love you. I love what you're doing. You're
And I feel like
great
we
friend.
still see each other and talk, but not nearly as much when we weekly got together to record
exactly.
a show, right? I mean, and new job and all that. And so, and out partying for 4 months. I wasn't. I was here sled. I was.
Hey,
dude, I was trying to figure out how to do a podcast without a producer. That's what I was doing while you're at the beach. How about
Just today, I bought a boat, and so I'm gonna maybe we could do a podcast from
what?
a boat next time.
Well, like a rowboat or like you start it up and there's a motor.
a full-on engine, take 10 people out. So like maybe
You're
we'll
my current and new best friend.
let's
bud.
podcast from the boat next time.
Oh, let's
We'll
do
go
it.
out on the sound. We'll take the gear, and then we'll have a fun.
We totally can.
Let's
All
do it.
right, that's a
It's
promise.
an invitation, I promise. Yeah.
Okay, invitation, and it's a challenge. Let's go. All right. Hey, listen. So normally we leave you with the big three takeaways. Not going to do that today because
Okay.
this is a holiday ending, and we're just going to take it easy on ourselves. So there's no big three.
Cue
okay.
the Christmas music.
Cue the Christmas music. Maybe Old Lang Syne. There's got to be some. How about that? Here we go, Old Lang Syne. All right, I'll cue that up. Anyway, thank you so much
Love
for
you, man.
listening all year and for the last bunch of years. We just came past episode 300.
It's amazing, dude.
Right?
It is amazing.
Episode number 300. I mean, here we go. We're plugging into. In February, it'll be the 4-year anniversary, I
Yeah.
think. Is it 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. A craziness, right?
So good.
And so thank God for that. Thank God for all of you who listen. I really do pray that you'll share this. That'd be such a blessing.
Yeah.
And I hope that 2021 will be the best year of grace that you ever experience with God, with your family, with loved ones, all the things you're hoping for and longing for. Ask Dad. He's
Yeah,
good. He
he's
says
good.
you don't have because you don't ask. Ask him.
Yeah.
And trust him. He is
generous.
good, and you don't have to look elsewhere for your satisfaction. All right, so Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, and we'll talk to you real soon. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining us today. For more information on this show and to get loads of free discipleship resources, visit everydaydisciple.com. And remember, you really can live with the spiritual freedom and relational peace that Jesus promised every day.